Welcome everyone. It's been a while, hasn't it? Bore da, my name is Councillor Cheryl Carlisle and I am the Chair of the Finance and Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting, which is a multi-location meeting. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website. £5 for the Chair's charity. Yeah. And a recording will be available through the Council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Can I remind members that translation facilities are available? If you want to make use of this facility, please select the English language option on the microphone delegate unit if you're in the Council chamber, and for those attending remotely by clicking on the audio settings tab and selecting English. For those wishing to speak in the chamber, please indicate by raising your hand and turn on your microphone when it's your turn to speak. In order for those online to be able to hear the translation at all times, for those remote attendees wishing to speak, please use the yellow hand function. When I call your name to speak, at that point, please press the push to speak button. If you have a point of order, just press the push to speak button. Committee members will be allowed to have their say first, and the relevant cabinet members will be brought in as and when appropriate, with non-committee members then being given the opportunity to speak. In order to maintain your place in the speaker queue when asking a question, please leave your microphone on until you've received a response and asked any supplementary questions. It would be helpful if members could ask all their questions in one go. Whilst I do not wish to stifle debate, can I remind members that any questions should be focused on the subject matter and to avoid repetition. For those attending remotely, please note that those in the chamber will be unable to use the chat facility. Remote attendees, if you do need to leave the meeting temporarily, please pop a message in the chat function. I expect everyone present and participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful to each other. That applies to members, officers and members of the public attending. And just to note, while listed on the front of the agenda, Councillor Harry Saville is not a member of this committee. And can I also welcome Councillor Angie, a new member to the committee. So we'll start with the first item, item 1, appointment of Vice Chair. Could I have a proposer, seconder, any names? Councillor Abdul.
Councillor Chris Hughes, Chair. Can I just apologise? I have to leave by 12.
Dear Councillor Abdul. So you've proposed Councillor Chris. Have we a seconder for that? Councillor Emily. Have we any other nominations? No. In that case, could we go to the vote? Oh, Councillor Nia. Councillor Nia online.
Sorry, I was just going to second.
Oh, fine. Thank you very much, dear. Okay, if we could show a show of hands on the vote. Thank you. And anyone against? Any abstentions? No, that is carried. Congratulations, Councillor Chris, if you'd like to come up to the podium when you're ready. Okay. We now move on to item 2, apologies for absence. Sally is going to advise us.
Yeah, just one apology from Amanda Hughes, Strategic Director for Finance and Resources.
Any other from the floor? No. Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest. Has anyone a declaration of interest? Nope. Okay. And item 4, urgent matters. There are none that have been brought to my attention. So we move on to item 5, minutes. The first one is the 2nd of February 2026, which is pages 4 to 9. Could I have a proposer and a seconder for those, please? Councillor Gromway and seconded by Councillor Abdul. Could we show hands on that, please? Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, those are carried. Thank you, members. And then we move on to the minutes of the 23rd of February, pages 10 to 15. proposed and a second, please? Councillor Gareth proposed, Councillor Abdul seconded. If everyone would like to show. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, those are carried. Thank you, members. We now move on to item 6, the minutes of the informal meeting of Overview and Scrutiny Committee chairs and vice chairs, pages 16 to 18. Could I have a proposer and a seconder for those, please? Anyone? Councillor Chris has proposed. Councillor Gareth. Oh, Councillor Charlie had already seconded. Okay, thank you. And if you would all like to show, members. Thank you. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, those are carried. Thank you. Gosh, this is going way too smoothly, isn't it? We now move on to item 7, minutes of the Governance and Audit Committee. Those are pages 19 to 22, and this was held on the 20th of April. If I could have proposer, please. Councillor Gromway, second. Councillor Gareth. Okay, show of hands, please, members. Anyone against? Any abstentions? And those are carried. Thank you, members. Item 8, questions to excuse me, Cabinet members. We have none. And move on to item 9, to review the forward work programmes, the FROSC ones, page 23 to 30, and the combined one, 31 to 53. Jane Jones, our lead scrutiny officer, is going to provide any updates. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. Good morning, members. Just a brief update. The committee recently met to review the forward work programme for the next municipal year. It was a productive meeting, and I'd like to thank all of you that contributed. The chair and I are now working through the actions from that meeting, and we will populate the forward work programme accordingly in consultation with officers. In the meantime, if you have any other topics that you'd like to have considered, please complete a scrutiny topic selection form and I will progress it for you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Jane. Okay, members. Oh, hang on. We have hands up. Councillor Anne online. Morning, Councillor Anne.
Morning, Chair. Morning, everyone. Just a couple of things, Jane. First one is we seem to have lost our working groups for FROSC. They're not on the forward work plan, so I don't know what's happened there. Second thing is we haven't got a date still on the waste transfer project, which is quite a key project, been going on for quite some time. And then the third thing is the business planning framework is scheduled for October 2026. And I think we've talked certainly at the workshop that you've talked about potentially starting budget planning earlier, and I just wondered if October could be brought forward so that we can start planning for our budget for next year more quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Anne.
Thank you, Councillor Anne. I'll take your queries forward and I will find out for you.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Jane. And next, Councillor Chris Cater in the chamber.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just on page 40, the place plan and placemaking charter that actually sits in my portfolio. That's my remit. It's down as Councillor Stephen, but it will actually be my remit as strategic planning. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you for that adjustment, Councillor Chris. Anybody else? Nothing else on that? Okay. In that case, could I ask for a proposer and a seconder to approve the forward work programmes, please? Councillor Abdul proposed. Councillor Chris second. If everyone would like to show. Thank you. Anyone against? No. Any abstentions? No. That's carried. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 10, the school bridging loans panel. this committee needs to nominate one member to sit on the above panel, and this is Councillor Paul was our previous incumbent of that, and I'd like to thank him very much for all the diligent work he put in on that, and he will be a loss to that panel. So could I have a proposer, please, for someone to join instead? No. Okay.
Can I just ask when it sits, Chair, please?
Microphone.
It's as and when it's needed. So when you get a loan application in, at the requisite level, it will sit at that time. So yeah.
In that case, I'm happy to go on if no one else is.
Could someone propose? Right, Councillor Chris has proposed, Councillor Emily, Councillor Abdul has seconded. Could we show? Diolch. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No, that's carried. Congratulations, Councillor Emily, or not, as the case may be. Okay, we now move on to item 11. A report from the Chief Executive, the end of project report on the Office Accommodation Strategy Phase 2. And I think Councillor Mike is here standing in for the leader, and he's going to introduce, and the Chief Exec is going to present. Diolch, Mike.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good to see you back after the election. So, so this report is regarding the Office Accommodation Strategy Phase 2 and end of project report, and is looking for project closure. So in this report is saying that the project has achieved its objectives and delivered planned benefits, elements including remodelling works here at Pwyllgor and the transfer of Bodlondeb. This was finalised in summer of 2025, with final touches being completed in early 2026. So if I just break down of the project, summer 2025, the main remodelling works at Pwyllgor, and we also, as I said, transferred Bodlondeb. Early 26, minor works were carried out, including an IT data backup room in Glassdeer in Llanrwst, and 2 new storerooms were created to assist, I believe, democratic services here at Pwyllgor. They were completed. Ongoing benefits. Not all the benefits are immediately achievable, so further benefits will be realised post-closure, and I'm sure the Chief or Blevin Evans will cover this in more detail. The project was managed by a project board, and if you look at page 55, paragraph 3.5, that explains the membership of this project board, which was chaired by the former leader, Councillor Charlie McCoubrey, to the left of me here, with oversight from Frosk member, Councillor Andrew Wood, and local member, Councillor Sean Grady was part of that. The board met between October 2023 and August 2025. Again, page 55 explains the democratic journey. Key stages were reviewed and approved by Frosk, Cabinet and Council sessions between May 2023 and December 2024. If you look at page 57, paragraphs 6.1 to 6.4, that's resolved that. So pages 57, paragraphs 6.1 to 6.4 talks about the resource over this project, which is 3.5 million of cash is attached to this project, giving Conway capital receipt of 1.5 million, cost avoidance and backlog maintenance of about, again, 1.5 million, and of course just over £500,000 in revenue savings. We know that there are issues regarding Pwyllgor that ERF is going to be dealing with. I can go into this a little bit later, Chair, but obviously I could touch upon the foyer reception security, for example, the heating system, car parking, and dare I say the conference system, which I believe democratic services are looking at. But there have been improvements, and you've said yourself this morning it's going swimmingly well so far. I can hand over now to is it the Chief or Blevin to go into more detail regarding this report?
It's Blevin.
Blevin,
Thank
okay,
you.
so
Yes.
thank you, Blevin.
Diolch, Mike. Welcome, Bledin.
Good morning. Yeah, Councillor Mike has stolen most of my thunder in terms of my script. But yeah, in a nutshell, Councillor Mike has kind of summarised those kind of key parts in the report in terms of the democratic process, in terms of this has been to Frosc on 4 separate occasions, in terms of membership of the board, in terms of Councillor Andrew, Councillor Shine as a local member in respect of Bodlondeb, and obviously the resource implications in terms of the capital receipt, the cost avoidance and the revenue saving as well. And then 6.3 details the budget that we were working within, which again was signed off by Frosc, then Cabinet as part of the democratic journey. So I guess I can take you to Appendix 1, which is the end of project report itself. If you bear with me for a moment as I open it myself. In terms of, where are we now? The first page of page 62 within the pack just details the strategic drivers for the project and then the project objectives, where that's supporting integrated customer focused services through to the net zero carbon programme, improvement and consistency in staff working conditions and enhanced financial resilience. So that's detailed in a table on page 62. Page 63 touches on the benefits realisation, whether they are measurable or non-measurable. Those measurable ones are detailed in the table, where that's generation of capital receipts, where that's reduction in accommodation costs, that backlog maintenance I touched on earlier, the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, the reduction in energy, improved staff satisfaction, the working environment as well. So we've got those in the benefits realisation plan. In terms of the business case, the business case is then detailed on page 66. And if I just go to the foot of that page in terms of the conclusion to the business case was strategically sound, financially responsible and operationally feasible. It presented a strong argument for rationalising the council's office estate at Coed in line with modern working practices and sustainability goals. With careful attention to implementation risks and follow-on actions, the project is well positioned to deliver long-term value. So that was the business case. In terms of team performance, I managed the project team, which had several officers from several different departments here within the council. There were several work strands, which are detailed on page 67. There were challenges in terms of, or we anticipated challenges in terms of, working within a live environment here in Coed Pellach. Obviously, the disposal of Bodlondeb, challenges there in terms of, so not very often that any authority disposes of of somewhere where democracy has been taking place for the last century or so. But we did that successfully, I believe. In terms of finance, mentioned earlier, we had a budget and we worked within that envelope as well. And we're looking at potentially having an underspend of circa £100,000 in terms of communication. There was communication not only in terms of democracy, but communication with Conwy Town Council, which we had regular meetings with Conwy Town Council reps at strategic points within the journey of Bodlondeb. Staff engagement in terms of leaving Bodlondeb and then obviously the works in Coed Pellach as well. And then the management and occupation, which was a challenge because of resource and then working in that live environment as well. But I think all in all, in terms of a project, I think we successfully delivered under those work strands and worked as a team, obviously under the guidance of the project board. In terms of the key products and deliverables, they're detailed on page 68, which was obviously a full business case approved by Cabinet scrutiny, refurbishment and fit out of Coed Pellach, staff relocated from Bodlondeb, democratic stores relocated from Bodlondeb to Coed Pellach, the IT backup room relocated from Bodlondeb to Glastir, Bodlondeb decluttered and emptied, full audit of all the heritage assets in Bodlondeb, Bodlondeb transferred to a third party, and then excellent communication engagement with stakeholders throughout. There are follow-on actions on page 69, which is setting up the Coed Pellach user group, and obviously as part of that, there will then be engagement with staff, engagement with various services in terms of how we refine, how we improve the working environment in Coed Pellach, whether that's zones or whether that's car parking, whether that's just the general environment within Coed Pella as well. And hopefully later on this summer, we'll be at the end of the 12 months defects period with the lead contractor for Coed Pella, and then it'll be up until December or early January in terms of Glastir. Then towards the latter stages of the report, you've got the lessons learnt. Obviously there were some kind of challenges in terms of coordinating and aligning communication in terms of some of the works here in Coed Pella. But it was a fast-moving project. Obviously, we had a timetable to vacate Bodlondeb, which was challenging, but achievable. We had, obviously, the just in terms of the resource capacity within services as well. But I think we dealt with it. And I think collectively as a project team and a project board, we delivered the objectives of the project. And I think I'll bring my brief presentation to a close, Chair.
Diolch, Bleddyn, and thanks to you and the team for all the work on this. I think the Chief Exec wants to just say a couple of words.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr iawn. I'd just like to express my thanks to Bleddyn and everyone who was involved in the project. It was not the easiest of project because of the nature of it, and as Bleddyn said, I think the time constraints were the main issue. Ideally, you want more time to do this, but you know, we were where we were, and actually to be able to take advantage of the position that we found ourselves in needed all hands on deck. That isn't to say that there weren't problems. We were all aware of some of the problems that have been, and we acknowledge them, and we'd like to thank both members and staff for their patience during that period, because it's been just challenging. Hopefully we've found some solutions to some of those problems, which will help moving forward. And as with every project, we will learn from what we've found, and there's certainly some lessons for us to learn there. So yeah, so just really a general thank you to the team for an incredible piece of work, and also in terms of Bleddyn's team, but also to Sian Branwen and the Democratic Services team around this chamber as well, which has been really challenging. I think what we need to bear in mind is this room was never designed for a chamber. It never was. It was an exhibition space, and we've had to make the best of it, and it has been challenging, and I know frustrating at times. But I do think that the work that's gone in and will continue to be put in to try and streamline and make better, and your input as members there is vital, I would say, in that regard. And working together over the past 6 months, we've managed to resolve some of those issues, which you know we see here today. So just a big thank you to you, really, for that. So diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much, Reen. Okay, we'll start with the questions, members. The first questions I have is from Councillor Anne online.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks everyone for the report, and thanks particularly to Mike as well as to Reen, who referenced the fact that we've got some residual issues, but they're on our agenda and our radar, and obviously we're going to work through those. So I'm pleased to hear that. The sort of key questions that I've got are two. One is around cashable savings coming out of the project, and the other is around the staff dissatisfaction or drop in satisfaction that is registered within the report. In terms of cashable savings, I mean, it would appear that out of this, the work that we've had to undertake has been accommodated within the capital receipt. And if I've heard Bleddyn correctly, there's potentially 100 grand that also can be cashable from within that. Mochra Commerce is not Commerce, Mochra ERF building is mentioned here in terms of capital, but there is nothing in terms of revenue savings. So, you know, my question around cashable revenue savings is how much they are across these two projects, since they're both being referenced within the report. It looks to me as though it's around about £1 million in this financial year. And are those within our reserves so that they are secure rather than just being absorbed within the day-to-day running of services, which is potentially a risk here. And then the second question is around the satisfaction sort of numbers that are referenced within the report, and some comment around what do we think is behind that? Is it, you know, some of the things that have been referenced already, or is it just to do with how we've managed the change? But obviously you would have thought that there would have been a welcome satisfaction increase on the back of improved working environment and sort of facilities. So just 2 questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Anne. Who's going to take those? Is Blethyn, Geraint? Oh,
I can take a few of them.
okay, you start then, please, Reen.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Anne. Yeah, I guess in terms of the savings, the revenue savings in relation to this project are in 6.2, and those were offered up by ERF as part of the budget setting, I think, a couple of years ago. So that they have been cashed in that sense. So they formed part of, I think, finally in the budget for this year. So those are there. In terms of Mochtra, I don't have that detail, but we can get that to you. I'm pretty sure. In terms of client satisfaction and staff satisfaction, I guess it's like any project, isn't it? So you've got that change curve a bit, and bearing in mind that, you know, the move happened a year ago, I think we do take very seriously when we hear feedback, and, you know, some of the work streams that will follow now, and Mike's mentioned a few of them around the car parking and the reception area, etc., will form part of that. And it's really important that we are listening to staff, especially when they express these concerns. My hope is, and also, sorry, bearing in mind there was a big change for those working environments for people in Bodlondeb who'd been used to different way of working, so that will take a bit of time. In the same way, when staff came here initially, it took a little bit of time to get used to a different setup, a different zoning, that kind of stuff. But I am confident that we will see the benefits of that moving forward. We see it on the different floors here now. Some of the teams who are, you know, Bodlondeb, certainly within the last, you know, for the last 2 years of Bodlondeb, was a very quiet building and wasn't the best environment for staff to be working and working across teams. You know, I think if you look at the building and you come in and you look at the different floors and the joint working that's going on between teams who wouldn't necessarily have before worked together, I'm hoping, well, I know that will come through in future stakeholder and staff engagement. And if we can put in the user groups and making sure that those voices are heard, I'm sure that we can make effective change where we're able to do so. So yes, I agree. It's not always easy, is it? You know, to affect change. But some of the changes have been minimal as well, and I guess for us it's about making sure that we are engaging with staff regularly to get that view. So I hope that helps. I don't know if others have the information around Mochtra or the finances that I'm unable to give, but thank you.
Geraint, Blethyn, anybody? No?
Well, only to say that the Mochtra office was outside the scope of this. I just mentioned it as an aside, so it's outside the scope.
Okay, thank you for that clarity there, Blethyn. Well, Councillor Anne, we will ask that those figures are circulated outside of the meeting to the members of FROSC, so everyone fully understands the savings from the ERF, the old ERF building, the old gasworks there. So
That would be most welcome, Chair, because I think cashable savings is something that needs to be in the forefront of our mind, so that we actually are we're in control of what our savings opportunities give us, rather than they just get subsumed in operational sort of issues without really being given consideration. So I'd really welcome the audit trail around the 660 annual cashable savings from Bodlondeb, and whatever the exact amount of the Mochtra office's cashable savings are as well. So if that could be confirmed in writing, I'd be most grateful. Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Reen.
thank you, Councillor Anne. We will get that as an action from this meeting. I think we got Fran. Fran, are you online there? Just a question around the staff survey. When is that coming to members, and will that touch on the satisfaction on Cwyd Petler? Is that part of the remit of the staff survey? Thanks, Fran. You're on mute. First of the day. Oh no, second. There we go. No, No. Fran, still on mute? No. Is your volume on? Okay. Still nothing, I'm afraid. Still nothing. We'll come back to you after that. We'll go to the next questions. Maybe if member services can give you a ring and try and sort that out. Okay. Bit ironic that that's happening under this item, but never mind. Okay. Councillor Allen, we'll deal with Fran's going to come in back in on that. Next, we've got Councillor Gareth in the chamber.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Bleddyn, and your team for what's been a really well executed project, which will deliver a load of savings. I suppose the only minor niggle is that it's a shame it wasn't done a few years ago so that we could have already realised the savings, but you know that wasn't in your control when it comes down to it. And a little bit like Councillor Ann, my concern is around the fact that almost 20% of the staff say they don't like coming into the office. And, you know, there's 13% of them say that they're satisfied or very dissatisfied with it. And it'd be really interesting to see what that dissatisfaction is and why they don't like coming into the office. But because when you look around the place, it seems like a really nice environment to be working in. And as you said, Chief Executive, it's team working, it's all about bonding and working together, but really concerned that 20% of the staff don't like coming into the office, which just seems strange. And probably as a council, as you said, we need to get underneath that figure and understand why and what's behind it. Thank you.
Thanks, Gareth. Fran, any joy there? No. Okay, keep trying. Thank you. Next, we'll go on to Councillor Gronway in the chamber, then Councillor Abdul. Councillor Gronway.
Thank you. It is on, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think it was a major project, and there are still some bedding issues to go through. My concern is that when I held the ERF portfolio and Gary was in charge of the maintenance of the buildings, that there was quite a lot of issues with this building that still hadn't been resolved, and I know the term's coming to an end now when this building, the sort of guarantee, whatever you want to call it, comes to an end, that some of those issues are still unresolved. So hopefully we can work on those and get them signed off before we lose that guarantee. They're small things, but they are crucially important. If we don't get them sorted now, they'll all fall on our shoulders on our purse to rectify. We mentioned the entrance, and I know talking to staff over the years that we've been here, the entrance has always been a problem. You've got so many doors there on the front, especially in winter when staff are in reception and doors are opening left, right and centre. I think we need to get a better system there. And also the foyer has proved challenging to manage the public. In the past, we've seen incidents there that the staff have been left very vulnerable. I know it's better now that we've got a reception desk there, and at least they have room to get from the reception desk if there's an incident. So that one is one that I think we need to box off quite quickly, because there's still quite a few vulnerable staff working and passing through the foyer. And the car parking, I think anybody can come into the car park, and once they're in the car park, they can walk straight through the building and out. I'm aware that, or I've been told that quite a lot of people come here to park, walk through the building, and then go off to their offices to work, which I think we need to resolve. We did have barriers there originally, so hopefully we can look at a system where there's either car identification or some method of knowing who's in the building, and that, especially if there's an incident in the building or a fire, we need to know who's in and who's going out if there is an incident. So that needs to be looked at. And I think the sooner the user group is set up, the better. I think that will help staff if they're feeling, as Gareth said, uncomfortable coming in. Let's find out what that reason is, and can we do something to rectify that. And the same with members. I've come here many times and find it impossible to find somewhere to park. So the parking, if if there are people using it that shouldn't be in this building, well, that would be a help to start with. So those are the few issues I think we need to rectify going forward. But it was and still is a big project. It's well, I think there's areas where we can improve, and I'm sure the officers are on that anyway. But as I said, perhaps a user group would help pinpoint those.
Dear Councillor Cromwell, and you're echoing my concerns around the parking for staff. A lot of our social work colleagues that do loan working and late working, they do have particular issues with not being able to park in the building, and I've raised this many times in terms of their safety and their well-being. Now we think we have ironed out the glitches and that Fran's going to join us finally. Fran, the floor is yours. No, okay, we're being too optimistic. Okay, we'll keep going. Yes, you may.
I'll just come in very quickly. I think what we do need to concentrate about the vast majority of staff who are happy about working here as well. I don't want the narrative to be that people aren't happy. You know, there's vast majority of people who are working here are incredibly happy with the atmosphere, as I said, around that joint working. There are issues that we do need to look at, and I can give the assurance to Councillor Gronwy that we are looking at the car parking, and we're doing a piece of work around that at the moment and see what's possible. And actually, it's bottoming out whether there are people parking here or not. That are so. We will be doing some work around that, or well, we have been doing some work around that over the past couple of months, and we'll continue to do that to monitor to make sure that we get that baseline really about evidence and information, which is incredibly important, isn't it? Because we don't want to find a solution to something without knowing first of all what the problem actually is and the scale of that problem. I would say though, whatever we do in terms of the car parking, there are limited spaces in that car park. You know, we have a finite number of car parking spaces. We need to make sure that we utilise them to the best possible way. I would say, and also we do need, you know, knowing the frustrations of members on Council Day, for example, we do need to work with that as well moving forward. But as I say, you know, this is a project that will all be ongoing. Although the project itself is coming to an end, these work streams will carry on inevitably because ultimately we want to make the best, don't we, for all of us. So hopefully that's helpful.
Diolch, Rhyn. I think Councillor Mike wants to come in. Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak again. I mean, I have got something to say regarding the car park, reception and the heating, but I'll just talk about the car parking at the moment, or can I just go through? Thank you very much. So first of all, for information, the first user group is on this Thursday. So that's great that's happening. Shreen's quite right. Some of these issues have been given to ERF to look at solutions, and I think right at the outset, I think we need to understand that there's simply too many cars coming to this building for the amount of spaces that are there. My late great mother would say, Michael, you're trying to put a pint in a half pint pot and it will not fit. So we need to understand that. So the solutions that we're looking at, to start with, if you like short term, we're looking maybe to introduce a permit system. That then would help us implement basic enforcement, i.e. someone could just walk past checking that there's a permit in the windscreen. And I think we need, with the help of Fran and her team, to look at promoting the hybrid working and sustainable travel options. So we look at that sort of short term. Then looking again a little bit further, we're looking at automatic number plate recognition, enforcement and barrier controls, as Gromley has mentioned. Develop a priority allocation framework, and then possibly long-term embed behaviour change through flexible working patterns, car sharing, and basically the shift from using your car to using public transport. We have monitored, albeit it's only initial bit of monitoring, and that indicates that the public is not creating a significant issue. However, we will look at it again. So we have had a look at people coming in parking, and we're not seeing floods of people walking out the car park to other areas. We're not seeing people coming in at 9 o'clock walking through reception. We can do more of that monitoring. So at the moment, the initial feedback is we're not got droves of people parking in our car park and then going off into Colwyn Bay. Is that little bit of work. Reception and the foyer has been touched upon about security. ERF are reviewing the foyer use and service operations to develop concept spatial design to address the problems that we're encountering. ERF only this morning at 9 o'clock have met to look at building modification options. You know, dare we say that we put uniform trained security here? I've put in brackets here that that's going to be really revenue hungry. So we need to bear that in mind. And obviously we do have a record of all incidents that have happened in this building, and I've seen that. So when it comes to the heating, modification to the building brought some light defects with the heating system, which were basically from the start, from the time this building was first built, there were some heating problems with that. Geraint possibly could go into more detail regarding, sorry about the hospital pass, could go into more detail, but what I'll say to you is that we've started working on the ground floor. I think you can find today we're not all sweltering, it's a little bit better, but I think this at the moment is on a manual operation. We want to switch that to automatic. A lot of the buildings now on the ground floor, and we're working up to floor 1, are going in on the automatic system. Yeah, so all I could say is, yeah, as the chief executive said, we are looking at the problems. I've got a team behind me that are looking for the solutions to them problems. I think the car parking one's going to be a little bit difficult when you haven't got enough space. And then the conferences system sits with democratic services. So lots of issues, but the team are working hard to address those issues. But as I say, so we are aware, and it'd be interesting to see what comes out of the first user group on Thursday, Chair. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I've gone on a little bit, but thank you for that.
Thank you. And we won't trouble Geraint now. Let the user group meet and start bringing some solutions forward, I think. Are you happy with that, Geraint?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, lovely. And I think in terms of the parking, I think when the building was initially only partly occupied, I think our colleagues in the probation service on the next block were using this, and I think that usage has continued. So that's something I've taken up with the chief exec about that through the lens of safety for social workers and people coming in for children's contact. So that's that bit. Fran, have we got any joy up there? Let's have a look. Nope. No, it's okay. Sally has you've kindly typed in, so Sally is going to read out your comments. Thank you.
Okay, comment from Fran. I'm really sorry you can't hear me. I wanted to stress, as Trina has just conveyed, the majority of our staff are happy with this amazing flagship building. I think the car parking is evidence that whilst the public may have felt that the office is empty, it's well used and staff are in every day. We will, of course, continue to work with staff to understand what can be improved, but personally, I think the satisfaction rate is really positive.
Happy, everyone? Lovely. Councillor Gromley, if you've finished,
Oh, just a
you come back.
Just a quick, Mike mentioned the user group is starting this Thursday. Do we know the makeup of the user group?
Yeah, so there's thank you, Councillor Gronwy. It's gone out to heads of service and they've appointed somebody. I just wanted one person from each service, but the first one, just to manage expectations, was for us all to get together and to decide what we wanted to get out of the user group. It was an opportunity to do something new, or to resurrect something from the past, but with new staff, with a new lens really to look at things. So I should imagine that the first one will be a bit slow, but then after that we'll pick up some speed.
And member input into that.
Oh, hang on. That's on.
And the member input into the user group, because we are users as well, aren't we?
We are.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah.
Diolch, Quinn. Thank you. So next we move on. Thank you, Fran. I hope we sort out the glitches. Next is Councillor Abdul, and I've got Councillors Charlie and Chris. Councillor Abdul.
Thank you, Chair. Most of them has been covered by Chief Executive and Councillor Mike. I mean, we as the members, I started my council career in Botlondeb, so I have very fond memory of Botlondeb. And I'm sure, with the time we have to move on. And that's what we did. And Emma hasn't been mentioned. Her team were responsible for the survey as well, for when we moved staff from civics and various other sites. Dennis side is one of them. And they've done incredibly well with the staff, working with the staff and all this. And as Chief said, it's the majority that are happy. And yes, some in the minorities will have their reasons, but what they need to understand is we're doing it to save money, taxpayers' money. So that should be forefront of before our comfort. We're lucky enough to have a job here, all of us, but we have to. That means making some sacrifices to save taxpayers' money. Car park, Councillor Mike Priestley mentioned, and if it's not going to work, it doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to work. I think Councillor Mike, you probably remember because you've been here as long as I have. When we had this project, we were going to make a additional car park on Princess Drive. We sold a bit of it to Witherspoons. There's still half left, crying out to be a car park. And you can put permit there. Because you can't, if you remember with the building next door, one of the conditions was we provide the parking for the office. I forgot, you mentioned the name, Chair, who is occupying it now.
Probation service.
Probation service, yeah. So that building was built in agreement with the council that we provide the car park. So you can't take that away from them, I don't think. But we do have a space crying out to be developed, and that's what we should look at it. Princess Drive. And if we're going to have a permit, then we know our officers and staff and members can park with the permit. So you can't say, oh, public's going to park. So rather than putting extra burden on the people who's coming here and penalizing them, you need to, common sense need to prevail, and that we need to do the work on Princess Drive on ASAP. And on that note, Chair, I'd just like to, we can't do anything about the report. It is what it is. And I'd like to propose that we go with it on page 54, 2.1 and 2.2. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Abdul, for that. So we have a proposer. Have we a second for that report before we go to
second, Chair.
Councillor Angie will second before we go to the rest of the debate. Second. Okay. Next, we've got Councillor Charlie in the chamber.
Diolch Cadera the Barda Pub. I'd just like to add my thanks to Blevin and the team. It's really easy to underestimate just how complex this has been, both the heritage status of Botlondeb, the importance it had to the town, and the significant worries there were about an end use for that building. To do all that and still carry on business as usual, in a really incredibly busy council, to have to transfer staff over, to transfer the meetings over, is incredibly complex, and I think it should really be noted that has happened pretty seamlessly. Clearly, as members have highlighted, there are still issues that need to be resolved, but this is a big building with a lot of staff. That would be the case as we move forward, as things change in terms of how the building's used. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. When this building was originally planned, if there had been the political will to move us here, then that would have been a lot simpler, wouldn't it? But given where we were, given what we had to do, it highlights the significant savings that we've made, as Councillor Abdul pointed out. But I think for me, it's that co-working, people being in the same space, being able to cooperate in the team, building that identity together, I think is immeasurable, really, and a really important part of the transformation that we need to move forward, where we move out of silos and we're literally in the same space and working together. So I was going to propose it, but Abdul put me to it. But just my sincere thanks to Blythe and all the team.
Thank you, Councillor Charlie. And I'd like to add my thanks to Sian Williams and her team in committees, because they've picked up literally all the problems that come along. Everybody rings committees, don't they? And they deal with it in their usual wonderful way. So thank you for that, and echo the thanks to the team. We now move next. We've got Councillor Chris.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair. I did have a number of questions, but thankfully a lot of them have been asked. I did want to touch on car parking, which one that Abdul raised, and highlight the fact that we have two car parks on, well, we have a car park and a space for a car park on Princess Drive, as Abdul has mentioned. I also wanted to ask, if staff can't park here, is there a facility where they can park on either of those two car parks in the same way they park here for free? So could they then park on those two car parks, and would that help to resolve some of their concerns? Equally, I do think that we've been talking about the Fulham Market Hall site for 10 years, maybe more now, and that was always planned to be a car park. There were a few conversations with other organisations like Chraffu Conway at one time, but the reality is it's been sat there now for 10 years, and it needs to come forward. And it would also address some of our concerns about the fact that there aren't as many electric parking facilities here, so that impacts some residents and some workers who are looking at potentially moving to electric vehicles. So I do wonder if that's something that can be forward relatively quickly. The other questions I had were, Bledin, were there any anticipated outcomes that weren't delivered, and why? And are they things that could be might appear again, at some stage? And are there any further opportunities to reduce the building's environmental footprint?
In answer to your first question, I can't think of any. In terms of your second question, I guess I would sidestep that, and possibly something for colleagues in ERF to look at, whether there are scope for more PV cells on the roof, or anything else that could be done within the building in terms of utilities. Technology moves on, things become cheaper. So it's not within my gift to kind of give you a comprehensive answer to that, but possibly something for somebody to look at a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Chris. Thank you, Bledin. My question last, in terms of cashable savings and things, I saw some social media posts over the last couple of months about the new leaseholders at Bodlondeb wishing to build a hotel in the grounds there. Is that the option for revenue for this council? Was that built into the lease, that we profited from any future developments they wished to do? That came along with a rather unsavoury comments about our planning department, which I'm sure will have been picked up by cabinet members. But I just wondered if thanks, Bledin, if you could.
Yeah. So there's no overage in that respect within the lease. I think it's fair to say that we optimised its value. Mindful, I would have brought a report to full council, so you had in front of you the options in terms of the values, conditionality. So if a hotel were to be developed on site, no, we wouldn't get any upside in terms of financials. As I said, it all sat within the capital receipts, or the sum that the long leaseholder paid us. And if they do extract some additional value, well, as I said, they may not. Who's to say? So yeah.
Deal. Next, we've got Councillor Emily in the chamber and Councillor Cathy online. Councillor Emily.
Thanks, Chair. Oh, are you back on?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I don't wish to go down a rabbit hole with this, but I just wanted to mention it, seeing as it has been mentioned within the context of this conversation and like what we're looking at moving forward, just around the idea of uniform security and things in the foyer. I can't not say that sits quite uncomfortably with me, and I'm not at all minimizing that we absolutely have to think about staff well-being and everything that goes with it, and yeah, absolutely we need to sort something out. But this building, I think it's brilliant. I think it's really good. I see what you see, Chief Exec, in regards to staff working together up and down those floors, being able to just pop over to speak to people, which is great to see. But the building itself is intimidating. It's big, and if you're a vulnerable person or someone that's living with trauma or just a normal resident that doesn't go into buildings like this before, it is quite intimidating, and I'm not sure what message that sends if we're talking about the idea of security and stuff on the door. We as a council deal with people who live with trauma, and what we sometimes see in the foyer is often trauma-led behaviour, and I just think we just need to be a little bit careful as to what we do around that. I'm not wanting to go into a major discussion with it today, but if it is something that we're thinking about going forward, I just wanted to say that, because obviously the people who are vulnerable and in that foyer a lot don't have a voice within that conversation of what happens and what's next. And that area, I love it when you go in and you see people just sat there and talking and going through stuff, and it's like a really safe hub for part of the community. So I just wanted to pop that into the conversation. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Emily. I had the misfortune of being here when there was a really unpleasant incident, and I was very concerned because there were small children on contact sessions coming through the building, and that was completely unacceptable, and we had to call for the police and wait for the police to come. So the safety of the children and the staff really concerned me there, but I think the Chief Exec will follow.
Yeah, I completely understand the concerns, and just to give reassurance, we are looking at various different options. It's not, we haven't decided anything on that, and clearly, we want to make sure that the building is right for everyone, both our staff and residents and everyone who uses it. So I guess, as has been mentioned, there are various other options that we're looking at in terms of that space. It is a very big space, and it's very different to most local authority foyer and reception areas, isn't it? So that is something that we need to look at, and obviously there is a range of things you can look at, and we haven't decided on anything yet, and there needs to be a real discussion there around how we want that reception area to look and how we control safety in the right way, I think, is exactly what you're saying, and absolutely we will take that on board. Yeah.
Diolch, Reen. Next, we've got Councillor Cathy online, then Councillor Dilwyn. Councillor Cathy.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you can hear me. My connection is very dodgy. That's why my camera is off.
Yes,
so
we can hear you. Thanks.
Right. So I've got one question about Bodlondeb. We hear that there is going to be a dental centre there, if I'm correct.
Yes, thumbs up from Blevin, there is, yes.
Okay. Now, one of the things that I was really concerned about were the interiors of Bodlondeb, and I understood that there was commitment from the leaseholder that they would not take out the panelling, the fireplaces, various things like that give that particular building its amazing heritage and character. I'm just wondering how a dental centre might function with those still in place, and was that a condition, and has it now been overruled?
Councillor Cathy, I think off the top of my head, it's a listed building and that part cannot be fiddled with. It's going to be the other, as you look at the front of Bodlondeb, I think the left-hand side, wasn't it, Blevin? If you want to...
The dental surgery secured planning consent 2, maybe 3 weeks ago at planning committee, and Councillor Cheryl's quite correct in terms of dental surgery will be in the more modern part of Bodlonda, which is a 1990s built. But going back to your original question, Councillor Cathy, in terms of there's nothing within the lease that protects the inner fabric of the building. Again, the leaseholder's taken a 250-year lease for a significant capital premium. And the more complicated we'd have made it, he would have walked away. But as you quite rightly say as well, listed building consent. So any kind of works to specific areas within the building will need listed building consent.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Cathy?
Yes, thank you very much for that. And my next few questions are about Pwyllgor. We've talked about security and safety in the foyer, but I've never had a satisfactory response to the numerous questions that have been raised over a period of time about security and safety within the chamber itself, because of the way it is configured. And I know it was a second thought, as it were. The work done has been incredible to create a chamber where none was originally designed. But members of the public, press and others are free to come in and out, as far as I am aware. Ideas were raised like security passes for visitors so we know who is here. Someone also raised the issue that we need to know who's in the building for security reasons in terms of fire drills or anything like that. If I do come into the chamber, I try and sit as far near the front as possible, so I don't have an unknown person sort of breathing down my neck. And I won't know who they are, and nor will reception, and nor will anyone else. So this was raised a number of times with a number of potential solutions, and I wonder if that has been progressed at all. My second question is about meeting rooms, which are at an absolute premium, and how is that going to be addressed, if at all? And then the electric car charging, that was raised directly with me by many staff when I attended a social care staff forum. And that is not just about car charging. I know we're talking about Pwyllgor. That is also a wider question for our social care sites, for members of staff who travel around and do their best to be environmentally friendly in terms of having an electric car. And of course, we can't disadvantage people who don't. So of course, the EV charging may not be expected to be free, but it just needs to be there. So those were my 3 points about the building. Thank you.
Dear Councillor Cathy. Yes, Blethyn's done. Yeah, the first one. Reen, you're going to come in on the security aspect. Lovely, thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Cathy. I guess, yes, it is something that clearly has been raised, and I can just give you the assurance around the chamber itself has been fully risk assessed. There is always an issue with chambers in terms of there is a legislative need for it to be open to the public. You cannot restrict access to the public generally because it's an open meeting. So in that sense, we have to work within that legislative framework, and that's the basis of the risk assessment that's been undertaken. There has been some work. There were some changes and some tweaks to that as we've gone forward, and especially around evacuation, etc. But it cannot. The council chamber doesn't operate in isolation, does it? So it has to work within the fabric of the rest of the building. So the risk assessment in relation to the chamber has to tie in with the foyer and reception area. So that's the work that's carrying on now, and the observations you've made, Councillor Cathy, will be taken on in that respect. But we clearly, when we are aware of potential numbers coming in, the chamber can only hold X amount of people, so we can only accommodate X amount of people, and we will be putting appropriate extra provision in place to address those issues when we become aware of them, because usually we are aware when there's a big attendance. We will be aware of that. So that forms part of the whole risk assessment. And I know it probably will never be perfect in that sense because of the legislative framework we're working to. We cannot restrict it. We did. I think Councillor Hardy raised some issues around access to the public, the doors being open, etc. in the evening. So there is always a balance with these things. But I can just give the assurance that the chamber has been risk assessed, and that risk assessment will tie in to the reception area when we're doing the work in assessing that. So hopefully that responds to that question.
Thank you very much for that, Reen. Are you happy, Councillor Cathy? Oh, she's gone. Okay, we'll come back to that. I think the other one was the electric charging that is being addressed, isn't it? The electric charging issues, yes. I think it's really important for us as members to say, the public should always have access to us. We're here to serve them. That's why they elect us to serve us, and they should always have access to our meetings and to everything we do. So, okay, thank you. Councillor Dilwyn, thank you for being so patient, dear. I'm not sure what's happened. You've got a really bad crackle there. Try again. If you turn your mic off and then turn it back on, see if that works.
What, the red one in the bottom?
Yes, that one. Lovely. Try that again now. See?
Is it better now, Chair?
A little bit, yes.
If I move further away,
if you turn your camera off, maybe. Try that.
Is it better now?
Oh, yes, go on. Yeah.
Diolch cadeirydd am cyfle i siarad. Just dim ond i
Really sorry, Dilwyn. There's something gone seriously wrong there. All we can hear is sort of like squeaking noises, squawking noises. Sorry. If you could type it in the chat and we'll read it out if that's okay. Really sorry about that. We don't know what's wrong.
There we are.
Okay, diolch, Dilwyn. We'll try again. Member Services will give you a ring. Okay, thank you.
There you are.
Okay. Councillor Cathy, if you could turn your mic off as well, please. There we go.
Sorry, Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
I don't know if you heard me saying I totally accept and welcome the legislative framework that encourages public participation. Of course I do. That's part of our democracy. But there is the balance, and I'm really glad that people have accepted that. So I just wanted to add that in case it hadn't come over. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Cathy, for that. Okay, I've got no more speakers. We have had the recommendations on page 54. They've been proposed by Councillor Abdul, seconded by Councillor Angie. And are we having an electronic vote here, Sally? Yes. So if we could start the vote, please, committees would be wonderful. There we go. If everyone has voted. Yeah, everyone online that's eligible. Okay, if we could close the vote, please. Okay. There we go. That's carried. Thank you very much, members, and thanks to all the officers that have contributed today. Much appreciated. We now go on to item 12 to consider a report by the Head of People and Performance on the following matter: Programme and Significant Project Summary Dashboard, pages 73 to 96. Councillor Dilwyn is going to try and introduce, hopefully. And Emma Roberts, our Corporate Modernisation Manager, is going to present the report. So give it a go, Councillor Dilwyn. If not, maybe... another cabinet colleague could just introduce. Okay, thanks, Dilwyn.
Ydy o'n well rwan?
No.
Ydych chi'n nghlodi?
No, sorry, Dilwyn. Sorry, it's just not working today.
There we are. There we are. Okay. Sorry.
There, that was, to try that now, bit better, go on.
The last one. Is it better now?
Yes.
Is it? There we are. Ond, na i ddal ymlaen felly, ac os gai, efo'ch caniatad chi gadeirydd, jyst deud be o'n i di obeithio ddeud yn gynharach, os ydych chi'n myndio cyn mynd at hwn. Yr unig beth o gynnau eisiau wneud mewn gwirionedd oedd diolch a talenturigaeth i Bleddyn, deud gwir, am y gwaith mae o di wneud efo hwn. Ond nid yn unig yn y cyfnod yma wan, ond os gai, efo'ch caniatad chi, fynd yn dod i'r cyfnod rhwng 2012 a 2017, pan oeddwn ni'n trafod, cynllunio ac adeiladu coed bella. Ac mi roi cyfraniad Bleddyn adeg ynny'n arbennig a sylwyr. Ac oedd hi fewnbwn a'i arbenigedd o yn rhywbeth dwi wedi i werthfawrogi a'i edmygu ar hyd yr amser. Felly diolch Bleddyn am dy waith efo hwn ers y cyfnod yno hefyd. Diolch cadeirydd, a'i ymlaen wan felly i gyflwyno'r adroddiad yma yn fyr. A fel ydych chi gyd yn gwybod, bob 3 mis, da ni'n cael cyfle i edrych ar y prosiectau ac i ddal fyny efo statws y prosiectau yma. Gai ddiolch yn fawr iawn i Fran a'r tîm, Emma yn arbennig yn fama sydd yma i gyflwyno yr adroddiad heddiw am y gwaith trylwyr maen nhw'n wneud. Dwi fel yr aelod cabinet yn fodlon iawn efo'r datblygiadau hyd yma yn y prosiectau a ffordd maen nhw'n cael i edrych ar ei hoedd i bob pwrpas i wneud siŵr bod nhw'n iawn ac yn gwerthfawrogi yn fawr fel mae'r coch, melyn a gwyrdd yn deitha ni lle da ni. Heb ymelaethu dim ar yr adroddiad, gai gadeirydd ofyn i Emma fynd â chi trwy'r adroddiad ac os bydd yna rhyw gwestiynau wedyn. Diolch yn fawr iawn, gadeirydd.
Diolch, Councillor Dilwyn. And
diolch i'r technoleg hefyd.
We'll try and sort out whatever the problem is. Okay, thank you. Right, welcome Emma.
Hi, thank you very much. Yeah, as Councillor Dilwyn just said, I'm here to just present and introduce the dashboard. The reason for the presentation, this is the Q4 presentation. The reason for presentation of the dashboard to the committee is to provide assurance that programmes and significant projects are being managed well, are achieving their objectives on time and to the agreed budget. Members, just to remind members that if specific detail on particular programmes and significant projects and they would like that to be further scrutinised, a topic selection form can be put forward and a detailed report can be provided to the appropriate scrutiny as part of the forward work programme. Members are also reminded that this is a dashboard for programmes and significant projects, and anything that's not defined or categorised as a programme or a significant project as per the programme project management framework is not included on this dashboard. So as I already said, the dashboard provides the overview of Q4 for 25-26. If you refer to Appendix 1 in the dashboard, it should be noted that there are less programmes and significant projects on the list, as a number of social care projects have now come towards completion. The end of project reports for these projects are being scheduled into the forward work programme as per your original agenda item on this agenda today around the forward work programmes, and Jane's notes that things are being scheduled in following the meeting. With regard to the overall status, the removal of the social care projects has skewed the pie chart towards more amber statuses, but there are sufficient explanations for this in the summary document, and they can be picked up, and if there are any questions we are happy to answer those. Of note on the pie charts, just to say that 70% of the programmes and significant projects are on budget and 70% are on course to achieve their anticipated benefits. around 80% of the programmes and significant projects do have issues and risks that are at an amber status. But just to be reminded that these are held within the confines of the programme or the project and are being monitored by the programme or project boards and resolved accordingly. Programme and project managers are in attendance today and questions are welcomed.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Emma, and thank you to all the project managers that have attended. Okay, members, let's start with the questions. First speaker we've got is Councillor Gronwy.
Thank you for the report. One project does concern me, and I've got the marketing of the Civic Hall in front of me here. It's the actual timetable of that. As we know, the Civic Hall has been marketed previously on more than one occasion. Unfortunately, we've not been able to proceed with that, so now it's back on the market, and closing date is the end of June, I believe. But then it goes on through the timetable that we don't expect anticipated planning application until spring 2028. Now, in the meantime, that building stands empty, deteriorating year by year, costing this authority money. I cannot for the life of me understand how that process is going to be truncated all the time to spring 28 before we anticipate a planning application. This project has had significant planning consultation over recent years, and much of the issues have been raised time and time again. And it is benefits from conditional planning already. So I cannot for the life of me understand why it would take till 2028 before we have a planning application. Could somebody explain that?
Who is going to take that? Blethyn? Lovely, thank you.
Thank you for the question or questions, Councillor Gronwy. Firstly, in terms of the tender date that you mentioned, the 30th of June, we've had to push that back to the 31st of July because of staff absence. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. In terms of the timetable, if a developer comes forward and is able to work in a, how can I put it, more efficient, possibly quicker timetable, fantastic. But just mindful of the amount of work required for a planning application, and let's not possibly get confused. The planning application now, which is non-deliverable, somebody will have to start again. It may not be the same developer, maybe somebody else. So there's an awful lot of work required in terms of satisfying local planning authority, Cadw, ICMOS, all the due diligence that they have to undertake. Hence, that's why we think as officers, that is a timetable. But if somebody were to come forward with a timetable they can deliver quicker than that one, fantastic. But that's just being reasonable, and that's just being reflective of other projects that we've looked at in the past, and this project as well. This is not going to happen overnight. We wish it would, but as I said, that's a timetable that we anticipate. But as I said, we're not going to lock anybody in. Somebody can work quicker. Fantastic.
If I can come back, Chair, personally, I think that timetable, if we're in the private sector, I would expect something to happen far quicker than that. It's unfortunate that we're having to extend the closing date for the submission of interest, but it is as blunt as it is. But I think we need to be mindful that in the meantime, a toilet that was supposed to be replaced in Conway is still being left with a very inferior toilet on the quay. There's no guarantee or future what the new toilet space will be in Conway, and it is limited. Conway is, as most people know, is overwhelmed by tourism during the summer, and it's even busy in the winter. So we need some sort of clarification on what's or some definite timeline on where we're going to move forward with this. It is holding a lot of things up, and it's costing us. The building is deteriorating in front of our eyes, and it's becoming a eyesore, basically.
What's happened here? Okay, thank you, Councillor Gronwy. Reen, did you want to?
Just very quickly, I completely take on board, and actually it will all depend on what comes in, and what will the proposals be and what the developments they're looking at. A change of use of the interior of the building is very different to building the outside of the building, and the timescales will depend on exactly what the proposals are coming forward. Completely take on board the issue around the building and its condition, and I think that was referenced when when we were talking about taking this out for a further round of tenders. So yeah, I guess the important date is the autumn 26 in terms of what we will have and what that will look like will then influence the timetable, because until we know what the proposals are, it's very difficult for us to, I guess from Blethyn's perspective, that 2028 date is sort of on a worst case scenario, isn't it? So it really does depend on what comes in.
Thank you, Reen. You can thank Councillor Cromie. Mike?
We need to be quite proactive with this moving forward. If any development comes forward, I think we need to be working with them, or we will be left with, as a lot of unhappy residents seeing a building deteriorate in front of their eyes.
Thank you for that, Cromie. Next, we've got Councillor Gareth in the chamber.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick points, really. On page 78, are we still confident with what it says there, that the Mochtra shed issue is going to be resolved by the end of December this year? If so, that's a really positive thing. If not, we should probably have a realistic end date in it. And the second point is on page 90, we talk about planting trees in Cwm Howard. And I was just wondered, in light of the recent Woodland Trust report that identifies Llandudno as being one of the worst towns in Wales for being a tree desert, where trees are essential green infrastructure, and where we haven't got them, it leaves the residents vulnerable to the heat extremes and air pollution. Have we got a variation in our policy now to actually, it's not just planting trees, it's where the trees are planted? I know from Trosolwg, I know which isn't Llandudno, but when a tree is removed off the street, it is not replaced. It is just left there. And Llandudno, again, has got a number of places where trees have been removed and they haven't been replaced. So, you know, in light of that report, I'd like to see that we have a change of policy, that is where we plant the trees is equally important as to just planting a tree anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Gareth. I think Reen's going to come in on the first part and maybe Geraint on the second. Thank you.
Diolch, Gareth. Yeah, the date is not correct on that, and clearly for reasons I won't go into, that will change as we move through this year. So the next iteration of this will have a more accurate date.
Lovely. Thank you, Reen. Geraint, please.
I'll have to come back to Councillor Gareth. I don't have the information regarding the location of trees within the policy. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Geraint. We'll wait for that outside of the meeting. Next, we've got Councillor Paul.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. As I'm no longer a member of this committee, which is a disappointment. Pardon?
Oh, Councillor Stephen, that wasn't. Would you like to withdraw that, please, Councillor Stephen? Pop your microphone on, please. If you could wait for it to come on. If you'd like to apologise to Councillor Paul. Thank you. Not befitting a cabinet member. Thank you. Okay.
And I'm sure.
Pop your mic on.
And I'm sure Angie will be as equally diligent as I have been in trying to scrutinise what the council is doing. I've got two questions to pursue, and I'll deal with them as you suggest, Chair. I've got questions on the education projects, and I did submit these questions to John Davis and Dr. Larry Brown, and I see Aaron is online, so I'm not quite sure who will answer them. I've also got questions following up from Gareth on Mochtra, but can I suggest we maybe deal with the education ones first? There were two aspects within the report which said no firm capital allocations yet agreed. All projects are potentially at risk of delay. It appears to me there appear to be risk benefits if Cabinet makes allocations early to ensure tenders are produced and therefore precise capital allocations requested as soon as possible. So I'd like some understanding what the limitations are in making more progress, particularly on obviously Erias and Gogarth. My second question, again, in the report, it says options to increase capacity are presently being explored to ensure a smooth and timely delivery. Can I understand what those options are? Can they be described, and how will those options be funded, basically to increase, as I understand it, staff capacity to get these projects moving more quickly? And the third question, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There was an updated paper that was presented to the senior leadership team in April. Is that paper available to councillors?
Thank you for that, Councillor Paul. Who's going to take those three questions? Councillor Aaron online, if you'd like to. There we go. Hang on. You should be... Ooh. There we go.
Diolch Cadeirydd. Bore da bawb. Thank you, Councillor Paul, for your question. The first one, in terms of risk for capital allocation, I suppose the reason that's in there is because we submit a capital business case when we're beginning that project, when we're scoping that project out. The Sustainable Communities for Learning project is a 10-year rolling project. So I suppose in theory, we could come to councillors and ask for the capital allocations all now, but that would mean you would need to trade off in-year capital expenditure to save, to have this business case in the pot ready to go whenever that project is ready. So I think the way John is going to do it is, when we're starting a project, we will then bring those capital requests to councillors. They'll go through the democratic process and hopefully that will be agreed. If we bring them all now, you're going to have to trade off which ones you want to do first. So that's on the risk. On the capacity, I believe this is Dr. Lodi looking to put in a revenue business case to increase the team. Again, that'll come to councillors for debate whether or not you agree to that. And again, you'll need to consider other pressures in the council as well. So I suspect that's what that one is from education. The third one about the paper to SLT, I'm not a member of the SLT, so I don't know what that is, Councillor Paul.
Diolch, Aaron. Maybe Reen could answer that one in terms of it.
We'll get back to Councillor Paul on that one. I'll need to discuss with Dr. Lodi.
Sorry, can I just come back, Aaron? I understand your response on that, and I understand that. But my understanding in talking to John and Larry about progress on these projects, and I'm obviously keen to get these projects started and completed as soon as possible, so that new projects can come forward. That's where my interest lies. And I know my best understanding is there has even been frustrations in terms of allocation of the funds to do all that detailed work of permissions and specification and design, which I think is frustration. I mean, if the political will is to do Erius and Gogar first, why aren't we just pressing on, allocating funds, providing staff to get these done as soon as possible? I think that's what my residents would be asking. Whereas my understanding to listening to officers, there are some deep frustrations in terms of their capacity to move this on. And it isn't to do with capability within that team, it is to do with just the number of people and the release of funds to get the different pieces of the work done, even before they go out to tender. And I can see there's nobody in education here of officer level, but I think, you know, I know of those frustrations in that area.
Aaron, did you want to come back on that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Paul. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm fairly sure the capital business cases for Gogarth and Erias were agreed in our budget only a few months ago. It's a few months gone by now, so you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. So that started. That work is currently underway. I suppose we can't allocate for the 3 to 5 year project or the 8 to 9 year project because we haven't started that work yet. And if we were to allocate the capital for that now, in the next financial year, we would have to trade off the other capital expenditure we would otherwise make in that year. In terms of capacity of the team, I agree the team do a fantastic job, but again, it's up to members to support any revenue business case the department makes, and we'll have to consider all the revenue business cases each department will make, I'm sure, at the end of this year. However, I just want to finally say that the risk to capital is a technical thing more than anything, isn't it? It's not that Cabinet isn't supportive of going ahead with this. We are totally committed to doing it, but we will have to follow the normal democratic process of bringing those capital requests to you, and then you will have to debate whether or not you agree with them. We are committed to doing it, but it's up to us if we're willing to support it.
Thank you, dear Councillor Aaron. You can thank Councillor Paul for now.
Well, I'm accepting of Aaron's. Can I go on to my second area of questions under the dashboard, and that is to Moktra. And I'm not going to say anything here today to compromise anything before Matt or Rin intervene in what I'm saying. 4 years in on this council, I personally do feel that I've been blocked in the scrutiny that I can do of this. And when I was elected, of course, the Moktra situation had been the blight overlying the council by that time for 6 years. And that blight on the council, on each officer, each councillor, remains. It comes up endlessly in conversations, and I'm often challenged. What am I doing about it? Am I effective in my actions, my agency, to make a difference? Now, my best understanding now, following a conversation with Chris Cater at the end of last week, is that the proposal is that further works on site will take place in July.
I'm going to have to interject here. While you have said that you are not going to raise things, you are raising them, Councillor Paul. And you, more than anyone else, knows the risks you personally are taking in raising these issues. You've been explained countless times in email and personally around this, and you repeatedly do it. I would say you are talking about processes that are part of litigation here in a public forum. I don't know how many times I have to tell you personally this, but it's getting to the point that you personally are putting the council at risk here. So I would ask you to refrain from discussing active litigation in a public forum.
Thank you, Paul. We have asked both myself and Ian White, as Chair of Governance and Audit, that there is a briefing to members, and that is being scheduled for September. So we will be hearing a briefing on that in September. So thank you very much indeed for that, Councillor Paul. Next, we've got Councillor Anne. I'm really sorry. The system seemed to have knocked you out. I didn't realise your hand was up and your light was on. I'm really sorry. I'll bring you in now. Thank you. Anyone else? No. Oh, can't hear you. Try again.
I'm still on red,
Yeah,
but can
yeah,
you hear me?
Good. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. A couple of things from me. I mean, I'd like to go back to Goronwy's initial comment about Conwy Civic. And this has come up several times now, obviously, that this project is delayed. So that's understand that. But what has been expressed several times, and requests have been made, that we do something to mitigate the site of the front-facing site of this onto the High Street in Conway, Castle Street, because it really is an eyesore building now. And whilst I understand that, I think something like, was it 20,000 approximately was committed for work to be done to the roof, nothing has been done, as far as I understand, to make the front of the building more amenable for the next couple of years while we transition to whatever sort of happens. So I wonder if somebody can just give me an update if that work is in scope and going to be actioned, or is that something I need to take as a topic selection? So that's just the first thing. Second thing is on page 96, Emma's explained that this report is constrained to sort of projects, sort of programs and significant projects. What I don't see here is any reference to the Brickworks regeneration programme, which commenced, I think, round about 2022-23, and that included the waste transfer station and work to the business centre. So what's happened to that project is my request, because I don't think we've closed it down, and obviously would like an update as part of this report going forward. And then the sort of next sort of key question is similar to Paul. It's on page 81, and it's about the Sustainable Communities for Learning programme. Completely on board with it, completely support it. But just a bit of sort of concerns, really. There's only one element of the project that's RAG scored red, and that's about team resource, I think. And I do wonder if we need to be more realistic in our scoring of these programmes and projects, because one of the reasons why I say that is I'm concerned about the unintended consequences of increased footprint impacting on availability of resources to the rest of the school estate, where revenue and capital funding are historically being negatively impacted by the work that we've done in some schools rather than others. So if resource capacity is scored red, why not budget capacity, and why not financial risk to funding of other schools? So that's my sort of main question there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Anne. So the first one is a topic selection form required for the Civic Hall. Who's going to take that one? And then we'll move on to the Brickwicks. Blethyn, yay, sorry.
So yeah, the Civic Hall, a couple of months ago, we painted, or we got some contractors to paint the timber work to the frontage of the Civic Hall. There's some screening within the glazed frontage in the Civic Hall now, kind of promoting the asset as a development opportunity. And I'm looking at an image of the Civic Hall in front of me now on Google Street View, and the rest of the frontage is all kind of obviously kind of built up stone. And without some significant improvement works, I'm not sure what else we can do to improve it without any significant budget. You'll see in the pack as well, the project itself has no allocated budget. As I said, we've spent money on it, and I think we would have said when we came to Frosco Cabinet before Christmas, we're at danger in spending too much money on it front end now. That somebody, we work with a developer and they would do the work. So yeah, as I said, if you've got any ideas in terms of what you had in your mind, Councillor Anne, to improve the frontage, yeah.
And if you want to come back with that bit before we
Yeah,
go
I
to
mean,
the
I
brickworks.
think perhaps, yeah, if Blevin has repainted the front from that horrendous brown, I think that it was, and if he's covered the glass so that you can't see into the inside of the building with sort of marketing things, those are two of the things that were in prospect before. So if he's done that, obviously I haven't picked up on the fact that that's been done, but I shall have a look and see if there's anything else, having had a look, that I would recommend. But thanks for that, Blevin.
Thanks for that. Okay, question 2. Emma, the brickworks, where are we with that, please, for that project? Mic on.
Apologies. So on page 91 of the agenda pack, there is the update on the waste transfer and treatment infrastructure. And I will follow up on the whole of the brickworks programme with the previous programme manager in terms of where that programme is, or whether it was closed and just turned into the waste transfer and treatment infrastructure project. Is there anything you'd like to add?
That's great, Emma. If you could circulate that to the Frost membership when, so we've got a detailed explanation of what's going on, would be brilliant. Thank you.
If I don't bring it before, I'll bring it in the next. Definitely bring it in the next quarter. Okay.
I think it'd be helpful if we could just have an
I'll send the update round as well. Yes.
Super. Thank you. You happy with that, Councillor Anne?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Lovely. And the last one, sustainable communities for learning. Who's going to take that one? Councillor Aaron? Aaron, are you there? No, he's gone. Oh, no, there he is. Aaron.
Apologies, Chair. Councillor Anne, could you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, I mean, the basic question was, if resource capacity is score red, why not budget capacity and financial risk to the funding of other schools? Because obviously budget capacity is obviously potentially every year 30 million revenue short. And in terms of financial risk to the funding of other schools, if we are going to be impacting by giving more to this project in terms of these two schools, in terms of revenue, that would be removed potentially from other schools or other services. So I'm not looking for detailed explanation, but I just don't understand why if resources is a red score, why wouldn't budget capacity and financial risks to the funding of other schools be a red score? Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can answer that question really. I think this the report we've got in front of us today is just on the risks of completing the project. So I suppose it doesn't take into account any revenue implications for the school budget. Can I take that question up with officers and get back to you, Councillor Anne? Thank you.
Yeah, of course you can, Aaron. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Diolch, Aaron. Yes, we'll make that an action from this and we can circulate it to Frost members. So thank you very much indeed. So that's those 3 questions. Got no more questions that I can see. I've got a couple of questions if that's okay. Emma, I just wondered, when will we get a report on the projects that aren't coming in on budget, please? That was my first one.
Are these the ones with the amber status? Do you want a more detailed separate report on them? Obviously we need to have a topic selection form then if you want an individual report on, because we can't bring reports on individual projects just for progress updates. But yes, if there's a topic selection form as to ones that aren't coming in on budget at the moment, and that can change during the lifetime of the project, I'd just like to add, but that's fine, we can bring one forward for you.
I'm just thinking as Frost, we should be cited on these projects. That's why I was asking in terms of, you know, the ones, it's okay, the ones that are coming in, it's the ones that aren't, but I'll discuss that. If we need a topic selection, then so be it. That's that one. I'll speak to you outside of that. The next one, a quick question for Katie. I just wondered what impact, and under the housing and homeless section, what impact has the demise of the Team Hours scheme had on the housing and homeless programme? Is it skewing our figures badly, or? Thanks.
No, as it stands, you'll see in the report that with the grant that we claimed for affordable housing, we overachieved that last year. So we had a sort of 11 million allocation, we claimed 13. We have a full programme for this year coming. We've got reserve schemes that could go in if we had more grant available, and the same for the following year. So that pipeline has to continue, and we know that we have other potential schemes in the area as well. So that isn't having an impact on our numbers over the period of this project at the moment.
That's great, thank you. And I'm hoping that we're continuing with our good progress on not having children in B&Bs and caravans. That's a really important one. So that was just a quick on that, please.
Yeah, we're monitoring that number's reducing all the time. I think the option of caravans is very different to B&B, and I think some councillors will be aware when they've had discussions, households have really liked the option of a caravan as an emergency, not longer term, but while we allocate temporary accommodation, it is self-contained, you've got the separate bedrooms, sometimes rather than flats it gives you a bit of space as well. So the caravans at the moment would be that preference, and they are being used obviously to reduce any long stays at all. No children where there has been a placement, it's very short term now. Children aren't staying more than a couple of months in a bed and breakfast and being allocated temporary accommodation. We aim, I know Councillor Stephen and myself were told, in the next few weeks, we expect to get to not having any children in B&B more than a couple of few weeks as an emergency.
Well, that's excellent news. Thanks to the teams, because that's been of huge concern to us as corporate parents. I know that's one that particularly worried me as a local councillor, and just in terms of making sure we constantly flag up the priority for cancer patients and MS patients when we come to allocating housing and emergency housing. As you know, I asked that question about 6 months ago, so if we can keep cited on that, please. So thanks for that, Katie, and thanks to the team for the work. And last one is Councillor Chris, update on the RLDP. We've still, some of my residents have still not had acknowledgements or responses from the consultation, and I just wondered where we are with the next steps. It closed in March, and lots of people still haven't had any acknowledgement of their Oh, James, have you come in to save Councillor Chris from the hospital pass? There's James. Okay. We can't hear you, James. Well, it might be you after all, Chris, as they say on telly. It might be you. Yeah, I don't think, James, it's not working up there. I don't know what's going on today. Chris, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to say there is a meeting of the strategic planning group coming up shortly. I think you sit on that yourself, and we're preparing for that. Yes, the receipt of the consultation responses should be going out. There have been quite a number, and it is a small team, Chair, but I think this has been logically worked through, and people should be getting a response to say that, because all the consultation will be going forwards to the inspector when it goes to examination. So the team is collating that, and they're still doing that. That hasn't finished as far as I'm aware. But James might pounce in and tell me how far that's gone. But yeah, this work is still ongoing, Chair.
Do we I don't know what's going on today.
I don't have a date for the strategic planning group, but it should
No.
be in the next couple of weeks, Chair.
No, that's fine. And do we know yet, are we going to have to go back out to consult in any areas because of any changes that have been flagged up?
That depends on whether they're minor changes which wouldn't need consultation or focus changes which would do. And I know that James has been in negotiation with Welsh Government about what they consider we need to go back out to consultation with. It would suit us if we didn't have to, because the process would be, well, it's been a long, slow process, as you know, so we don't want to slow it down any further if we don't have to go out for consultation. I know the dark skies will be going out for consultation because that will be an SPG, so that will have to go out to consultation. But the sites won't be needing to. There are no focus changes, as far as I'm aware, with the actual strategic sites, so they won't be going out to consultation again.
Okay,
I hope I've got that all right. Thank you.
Thank you. And if James could just maybe circulate just a note outside, because there's clearly something going on with the system today. How ironic. So that's great. Thank you very much. Now we've got Councillor Anne has just come up to come in, and then Councillor Abdul. Councillor Anne.
Yeah, just a brief comment, Chair, and thanks for allowing me to come back in. It's page 94, which is the resilience programme. And you'll know, most of the people here, that I continue to sort of challenge what we're doing in terms of resilience within this programme. And I think the leader herself has confirmed that she's going to be doing a bit of a councillor workshop to get into sort of a bit more detail. But I just wanted to say that I have to say that this report doesn't fill me with confidence that we're on a path to sort of live within our budget, make cashable savings, and protect vital services that our services rely on. I mean, Audit Wales has classified our resilience to be at risk. And that's mainly due to two things. The fact that we probably more concentrated in recent years on salami slicing versus not focusing on fundamental transformational change. And secondly, that there are multi-million-pound deficits year on year in our projected budget. So the budget deficits are not going away, neither are low reserves and democratic pressures. So I just wanted to raise the concerns here, because everything here, apart from the last two headings, are all green. And in terms of, the reality of our current predicament, I don't think this report is actually sort of evidence reality of where we actually are. So it's more of a comment, and I don't know if anybody here wants to, in terms of officers, wants or cabinet wishes to come back and obviously confirm when this workshop date will be with members so that we can get into the detail of this. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Anne. Who is going to answer about this resilience? Is that you, Councillor Dilwyn? Whose portfolio? Oh, Reen.
Yeah, I don't have a date, Councillor Anne, but we'll get that to you, because I need to discuss with the leader, and the leader isn't here. So clearly we need to have a discussion on that. I would say that in terms of the Resilience Board, there's a lot of constructive discussion going on in that board. A lot of challenge, I would say, in terms of pace and what's being brought forward, and also trying to accommodate new projects when we feel that they would make that difference. But clearly that detail isn't there, and I completely accept that. And clearly we will be reporting in, won't we, at various stages with different things in terms of how that transpires. So yeah, we'll get back to you on that date, because I'll need to discuss with Julie. Yeah.
Thanks, Reen.
Thank you very much. And our final speaker is Councillor Abdul. Thank you for your patience there.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just want to ask, how often do you bring this report here? Is it 6 monthly or?
Quarterly, every 3 months.
Yes, that's fine. So it is ongoing then, and we're just noting the progress. So I propose that we accept that recommendation on 2.1 on page 73, Chair.
Thank you very much. You're on the ball today, Councillor Abdul. Thank you. You're easing my workload. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Angie, lovely. So as everyone's finished, if committees could open the vote, please, that would be lovely. And if you'd all like to vote using your consoles. Everybody, let's have a look. Okay, if we could close the vote, thank you. Let's have a look. And that's been passed. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, members. Look at that, finished before 12 o'clock. Thanks to all the officers and all members, and we'll close the meeting. Thank you.